blood come the prince that was promised, and his will be the song of ice and fire.
Welcome back, Watchers Beyond the Wall. My name is Monica, and if you don't know who I am, I post videos pertaining to a Song of Ice and Fire content, and a little bit of whatever is on my mind. Here, we deep dive and overanalyze re-watching shows and movies over and over again to understand what the writer is trying to tell us. Without further ado, brace yourselves for rewatch. In the tumultuous history of Westeros, where power is often inherited rather than earned, the lives of the Second Sons tell a particularly complex story. These men, born in the shadow of their elder sibling, were never meant to rule, yet their ambitions and actions and destinies would shape the very course of the realm.
Mormont continued. Aemon was at his books when the eldest of his uncles, the heir apparent, was slain in a tourney mishap. He left 2 sons, but they followed him to the grave not long after, during the great spring sickness. King Daemon was also taken, so the crown passed to Daemon's second son, Aerys.
Otto Hightower, King Aerys I Targaryen, Ned Stark, and Daemon Blackfyre stand as pillar examples of the Second Sons navigating the intricate web of loyalty, duty, and self-desire, ultimately carving out their own legacy.
What is this brief mortal life, if not the pursuit of legacy?
Rhaenyra's children are not of your blood. They are her legacy.
History does not remember blood. It remembers names.
In a world that expected them to fall quietly in line behind their elder brother, whether through political maneuvering, rebellions, or the heavy weight of responsibility thrust upon them, each of the Second Sons redefined their role in the unfolding truth of Westeros history, that no matter the grievous acts committed against them, they still have a duty and a precedent to hold beyond oneself. Identity.
The sun was climbing up the sky, and her people would soon be gathering. She would rather have drifted in the fragrant pool all day, eating ice fruit off silver trays, and dreaming of a house with a red door. But a queen belongs to her people, not to herself.
Otto Hightower, the calculating hand of the king, was a man defined by ambition and pragmatism. Serving under the Targaryen monarchs, Otto was a second son who was going to inherit little to nothing. Yet, his power and ambition had granted him the dominion over a realm.
Whatever our differences, our hearts remain as one.
Oh, our hearts were never one. I see that now. Rather, I've been at peace that you moved about the board.
If that is true, then I made you Queen of the 7 Kingdoms. Would you have desired it otherwise?
How could I know? I wanted whatever you impressed upon me to want.
Through a calculation of political means and ruthless drive, he rose to become one of the most influential figures in the realm. His actions during the early years of King Viserys' reign would lay the groundwork for his family's long-lasting power. Meanwhile, Aerys, the second son of King Daemon II, finding his reign marked by uncertainty and a fragile hold on the Iron Throne. Despite him being born in the royal Targaryen family, Aerys I proved that he was unequipped to rule the 7 kingdoms because his eldest brother tragically passed away before he could take on the role himself, forcing him to confront both internal and external challenges that would ultimately lead to the end of his reign. His story highlights the vulnerability of the Second Sons, who is an integral part in how the crown may weigh heavier upon them, as they are thrust into the harsh reality and the uncertainty of their legacy.
I should have come sooner. If not for my hand, I might not have come at all. Lord Seaworth is a man of humble birth, but he reminded me of my duty, when all I could think of was my rights. I was trying to win the throne to save the kingdom, and I should have been trying to save the kingdom to win the throne.
On the other side of the spectrum, Eddard Stark and Daemon Blackfyre were second sons shaped by personal responsibility and ambition in vastly different ways. Eddard, the second son of Rickon Stark, was and always destined to play a secondary role in the North, raised to serve his older brother and ultimately take part of his ancestral home seat after his brother unless he did not have kids. This subsequently would not be the outcome, as his elder brother would tragically die by the Mad King Aerys Targaryen. Ned's story was not one of quiet submission, but rather one of the reluctance of leadership bound by honor and duty to uphold his family name.
Forever upholding the kingdom, the family, the law. Will you flout it all to do as you please?
Alicent, let her go!
Where is duty? Where is sacrifice? Is trampled under your pretty foot again.
In contrast, Daemon Blackfyre, the illegitimate son of Aegon IV, also known as Aegon the Unworthy, seized the opportunity as a second son with furious ambition. Through his father's controversial favor and the gift of the Blackfyre sword, Daemon transforms his status into a claim of the throne, challenging the Targaryen monarchs in which would become a devastating rebellion. Daemon's story is one of fierce determination, turning the tales of fate of the second sons into a grand assassination for power and dominance.
Spoken the truth. I see Otto Hightower for what he is. An unwavering and loyal hand.
A cunt. A second son who stands to inherit nothing he doesn't seize for himself.
Otto Hightower is a more honorable man than you could ever be.
He doesn't protect you. I would.
From what? Yourself.
Forever intertwined of the course of Westeros. The lives of Otto Hightower, Aerys the First Targaryen, Eddard Stark, and Daemon Blackfyre are all intricate parts of the reflection within the complex and often intricate nature of being a second son in the world of Westeros. For both political standpoints and royal discourse adorned with honor, ambition, those men navigating a realm that sought to extinguish themselves over their older siblings in the shadows are often that forgotten about. Yet, whether through diplomatic diplomacy, loyalty, or rebellions, each man stands as a contrast as an individual character within the Seven Kingdoms. The second sons of Westeros were not merely footsteps or footnotes within their younger sibling story. They had their own archetype and often chose their own path, whose choices reverberated across the realm for generations. Otto Hightower. In the grand halls of Old Town, where their mightiest Hightower casts its shadows over the harbor, and the starry-eyed sept stands as a testament to faith and tradition, Otto Hightower emerges as a figure of quiet determination and calculated ambition. Instead, his elder brother bore the weight of their lineage, while Otto carved out a place for himself in a world that often relegates second sons to the periphery of power.
I've never seen that side of you, my daughter. I even doubted its existence.
It was an ugly thing, I regret it.
We play an ugly game. And now, for the first time, I see that you have the determination to win it.
Rhaenyra.
You see her for what she is. What the king's stubbornness has wrought.
Yet, Otto's story defines the experience placed upon him as he rises to become one of the most influential figures in Westeros, shaping the course of history not through swords or armies, but through strategy, cunning, and determination within his self-resolve. For Otto Hightower, being a second son was both a limitation and an opportunity.
Appropriate for a self-made man with so many songs to sing.
I'm glad you like it. Some people are fortunate enough to be born into the right family. Others have to find their own way. When boys and girls live in the same home, awkward situations can arise. Sometimes I've heard even brothers and sisters develop certain affections. And when those affections become common knowledge, well, that is an awkward situation. Indeed, especially in a prominent family. Prominent families often forget a simple truth. I've found.
And which truth is that?
Knowledge is power.
In a family as ancient and powerful as the Hightowers, second sons were expected to serve their house in less visible roles, such as stewards of the wealth in their family, commanders of their banner, and to assist within courtly life. But Otto saw this station as a chance to navigate the shifting tides of politics with an independence that his elder brother could not afford. His path led him to the court of the Iron Throne, with his power and influence and ambition soon drawing attention of the kings. As hand of the king to multiple Targaryen rulers,
I wonder, how long did it take you to choose yourself over your king?
Otto influenced through experience far beyond the confines of Old Town, making him a central player in the realm during multiple battles and impending moments. Unlike many second sons whose fate of ambition and glory,
He wanted it, Jon knew then. He wanted it as much as he had ever wanted anything. I have always wanted it, he thought guiltily. May the gods forgive me. It was a hunger inside him, sharp as a dragonglass blade.
marred their legacy. Otto's unwavering determination to carefully craft power as a source of leverage shaped his mind and status as he made his house the most powerful and prominent house that we know today in present Game of Thrones, House Hightower. Yet, Otto's legacy is not solely based on personal ambition, but rather one of family. His daughter, Alicent Hightower, becomes one of the most prominent figures in the Targaryen history as her marriage to King Viserys I Targaryen as a masterstroke of Otto's political maneuvering. Through Alicent, Otto secured his family's place at the very heart of the realm's power, setting the stage for the tumultuous Targaryen civil war known as the Dance of the Dragon. As a second son, Otto may not have been born into inheritance through legacy of the Hightower, but he proved through influence and power you could seize anything in determination and insight. His life is a testament to his inhibition of a second son, to shape the course of history not through titles, but rather through the relentless pursuit of opportunity. Otto Hightower's story is one of shadow and ambition, as a remembrance to the annihilation of the Targaryen forces, but also how one man's great influence can pivotally change the course of the Seven Kingdoms, reaching far beyond his station and leaving a mark on the Seven Kingdoms of Westeros that will endure for generations to come. In the halls of power, where birthrights are given just by the measure of one's worth, Otto Hightower defined these means with cunning and determination, a rare asset we see now in present-day Game of Thrones.
Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder. Many who try to climb it fail, but never get to try again. The fall breaks them, and some are given a chance to climb, but they refuse. They cling to the realm, or the gods, or love, illusions. Only the ladder is real. The climb is all there is.
Through his life, we glimpse the complexity and interfaceted characters within his family, and how loyalty and justice for what he believes is right can be profoundly impacted as the role of the second son, the station he was given by birth, and in doing so, he carved a path rich for him. The role of a second son in Westeros' politics. Otto's role as Hand of the King illustrates the broader themes of second sons navigating the social constructs that are laid before him at birth. Unlike firstborns, who inherit titles and often are considered more prestigious, have the weight of duty and precedent, second sons can act with a degree of freedom that allows them for greater political advancements. Otto's ability to outmaneuver his rivals.
Daemon served first as master of coins, then master of law, but it was his chief rival, the hand Sir Otto Hightower, who finally convinced Viserys to remove him from these offices. So in 104 AC, Viserys made his brother commander of the City Watch.
An inability to oppose those who challenge him through multiple Targaryen rules show how mastery of this unique advantage he was in such a quick amount of time. Furthermore, Otto's success as a second son highlights the importance of adaptability and foresight in Westerosi politics. His exemplary values and ambition of the Targaryens during a dynastic dispute and leveraging it to his own advantage, the succession, in a way that he believes would benefit his family, shows his foresight. In doing so, Otto exemplifies how second sons can serve their own ambition while also ensuring that they are using the political chessboard to their own advantage. By all means, at Otto's station, we see him more in power than his firstborn counterpart. Legacy and consequences. While Otto's actions as a second son secure his family in a position of power, they also sow the seeds of conflict that ultimately culminate in the Targaryen civil war known as the Dance of the Dragons. His relentless pursuit of power extinguishes a rift between Rhaenyra Targaryen and Alicent Hightower, his daughter, plunging the realm into a destructive civil war. That outcome serves as a calculation and a tale about the consequence of unchecked ambition, proving that it fueled the instability and consequences to being a second son and how they are a leech that sucks on power for their own sick end. In conclusion, Otto Hightower's character is one of extreme compulsion when it comes to the idea of the second son archetype. In a socio-political landscape of Westeros, you must cut out a place for yourself if you want glory and inhibition.
Matters became more complicated when, with Sir Otto Hightower's encouragement, King Viserys announced his intention to wed the Lady Alicent, Sir Otto's daughter, and the old king's former nursemaid. For the most part, the realm celebrated this union. Rhaenyra, secure in her place as heir, welcomed her father's new bride, for they had long known one another at court.
Otto didn't want to be placed in a box, so he wanted to do what he only could do. He knew he couldn't be on the Iron Throne, that made no sense, so he put his blood on the Iron Throne. By this political maneuver, he was able to secure his bloodline through the Targaryen lineage. His ruthless pursuit of power ultimately destabilized the realm. Otto's story underscores the complexities of a feudal system. King Aerys I Targaryen, the unlikely monarch. The reign of King Aerys I was born not out of ambition, but of circumstance. As a second son, thrust into the spotlight of the crown, he neither sought out or relished. Aerys, the second son of King Daemon II, was a man of peculiar temperament, discarding its trappings of power and the burden of ruling. Unlike his older brother, Balon Breakspear, whose charismatic and military prowess marked him as a natural heir, Aerys was bookish, withdrawn, and unremarkable in the eyes of the court.
Assuming the throne in 209 AC, Daemon's second son Aerys had never imagined he would be king, and was singularly ill-suited to sit the Iron Throne.
Yet it was not Balon who sat upon the Iron Throne when Daemon passed. It was Aerys, the unlikely spare, who would become the monarch in a kingdom fractured by the mistrust of the long-resenting Blackfyre rebellion. Aerys had spent much of his youth entrenched in the libraries of the Red Keep and the Citadel, poring over arcane knowledge, dusty scrolls, and the arts of prophecy and lore, while his peers were sharpening their swords and sharpening their wits in melee practices. Aerys pored over riddles of ancient Valyria and the prophetic visions of dragon dreams. This scholarly atmosphere earned him him little favor amongst the high lords of Westeros, who valued military might and strength, the fierce charisma that the Targaryens, like Daemon Blackfyre, embodied. To them, Aerys was a pale shadow in the figure of the dragon lords of old, a man more at ease amongst the parchments and scrolls of a time long forgotten, rather than the court and battle structure these men were akin to. When fate called him upon the rule, Aerys' reign unfolded as a study in paradox.
Aerys wed his own sister, as the Targaryens were wont to do, and reigned for 10 or 12 years. Aemon took his vows and left the citadel to serve at some lordling's court, until his royal uncle died without issue. The Iron Throne passed to the last of King Daemon's 4 sons, that was Maegor.
He was a king who valued the knowledge above conquest, yet this led him indifferent to the politics and machinations of the realm, left with the values and inhibitions of others. The hand of the king, Brandon Rivers, better known as Bloodraven, assumed all sense of the power, as he truly embodied the crown, a situation that would dive deeper through the great houses, as they truly believed he was the king rather than Aerys. Aerys, meanwhile, was withdrawn, deeply entrenched within his books rather than his reign, and also marked the ear of his illness. As the realm waited for either chaos or salvation to emerge, the question that often arose in his testament and legacy: would Aerys be remarked as a wiseful scholar king who sought to guide Westeros with the wisdom of the past, or as a flickless figurehead whose determination opened the gates to future calamity? Reign and legacy. In the long and tumultuous events of the Targaryen dynasty, King Aerys the First Targaryen stands as a steadfast study of intrigue, as he was a second son thrust into a role he neither desired or prepared for. Aerys' unexpected ascent to the Iron Throne followed the death of his elder brother Balon Breakspear, often raising the question of the challenges faced by a second son in Westerosian politics, particularly those who lack military prowess or the charismatic allure that comes with being the heir or a ruler. Aerys' reign, defined by pillar attributes of his unlikable study when it comes to books and philosophy.
Donning the crown during the Great Spring Sickness, Aerys I faced a realm in turmoil from the first. Hardly had the plague begun to ebb when Dagon Greyjoy, lord of the Iron Islands, sent iron-born ships reaving all up and down the shores of the Sunset Sea.
He wasn't the strongest when it came to political endeavors, and it rose the question about the exploration of replacing a second son with the rightful heir. This advantage negatively sidelines him and his abilities for leadership. The death of Balon in a tourney accident, however, describes the upheaval and power struggle that Aerys faces. As a second son, Aerys had no equipped to rule, and because of that, he didn't have the necessary means of leadership. His lack of perspective and stability became apparent in his early reign. His reliance on Brandon Rivers, the enigmatic and controversial Hand of the King, was both a symbol of his cautiousness and inability to restore the realm in a crucial moment of time.
You understand why I did it,
Jon said he was a deserter.
but do you understand why I had to kill him?
Our way is the old way.
The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword.
Is it true he saw the White Walkers?
Bloodraven's government was often characterized as him being the sole king of the Seven Kingdoms, causing discourse amongst the great houses. Aerys' reign is highlighted as the burden of the second son, who are not prepared as they are just merely spares until they are thrusted in the diplomatic society of Westeros. Coming from Otto's perspective, Otto seeked out ambition and glory, elevating him to a higher standard. Because of that, he prepared himself for the role laid before him. However, Aerys did not want this role of kingship. Whether he predicted or knew his brother was going to die was never a foresight. Therefore, because Aerys was a second son, the mantle and burden was thrust upon him, though he was ill-prepared.
Aemon was at his books when the eldest of his uncles, the heir apparent, was slain in a tourney mishap. He left 2 sons, but they followed him to the grave not long after, during the great spring sickness. King Daemon was also taken, so the crown passed to Daemon's second son, Aerys.
Westeros, still reeling from the Blackfyre rebellion, required a monarch who could inspire unity and strength, qualities that Aenys either lacked or chose not to display. His reign was marked by ill sickness and instability, a sense of him leaving the realm vulnerable to future crises. Despite these shortcomings, Aerys' reign deserves a more nuanced perspective, as he was thrust in a role of leadership he was unprepared for, ill-suited to pick up these fragmented piecements of the throne. As this reflects a different side of kingship, one who needs profound knowledge, wisdom, and the perspective of history.
What thoughts would you have?
I'm the king.
Do you think simply wearing the crown imbues you with wisdom?
Aerys was forced in a rule modeled of great leadership. Aerys didn't lack the knowledge to rule. He was wise beyond his years, as he liked to study books in the Citadel, Red Keep, and Dragonstone. Because of this, he could have been a great king, but he lacked the confidence of leadership. Not wanting to incite more violence was his ultimate downfall. He needed to establish the balance between diplomacy and harsh means. Because of this, his legacy is marred. In conclusion, King Aerys the First Targaryen's experience as a second son, thrust into kinship, reveals the complexities of leadership and the challenges of unexperienced succession. His reign illustrates the difficulties faced by individuals who are not prepared to establish points of leadership.
In Dagon's day, a weak king sat the Iron Throne, but even Dagon could not defeat the dragons. But I shall make the Dragon Queen mine own. She will share my bed and bear me many mighty sons.
His inability and ill-preparedness demonstrates a lack of power dynamic within the Seven Kingdoms, while he allows his Hand of the King, known as Bloodraven or Brandon Rivers, to demonstrate these acts of kingship, makes it seem as though he cannot control the Seven Kingdoms and illustrate his power by having others do his bidding on his behalf. Ultimately, Aerys' legacy serves as a reminder of the diplomatic struggle and balance required to rule, as you need to weigh the burden placed upon individuals in positions of power without seeking it outright. Lord Eddard Stark, also known as Ned Stark, known across Westeros as being an unyielding, honorable, and quite somber man, was never meant to rule Winterfell as one does. As the second son of Rickon Stark, the Lord of Winterfell, Ned's early life was defined by being in a position as the spare, and unequivocally sidelined by his elder brother Brandon, who embodied the fierce determination and charisma of a leader. With a military spirit, that becoming of the future Warden of the North, where Brandon was bold and tempered, Ned was calm and intellectual.
It was all meant for Brandon. You, Winterfell, everything. He was born to be a king's hand and a father to queens. I never asked for this cup to pass to me. Perhaps not, Catelyn said. But Brandon is dead, and the cup has passed,
and you must drink from it, like it or not.
Coming to rationalities before temper, Ned was often comfortable with letting his older brother claiming responsibility and glory that would come with being the Stark's heir. Yet, fate had another position for Ned Stark's family and succession. Unyielded to the natural order of succession and the quiet second son, thrust into a rule he never sought out, but fulfilled within steadfast dedication.
If this news is true, and the Lannisters conspire against the throne, who but you can protect the king?
They murdered the last hand. Now you want Ned to take the job.
The king rode for a month to ask for Lord Stark's help. He's the only one he trusts.
Ned's formative years were shaped not only by his position as a second son, but also by his upbringing from being part of Winterfell and the North. Sent to be fostered by Jon Arryn at the Eyrie alongside Robert Baratheon, he grew up into manhood at the Vale, learning values of loyalty, justice, and resolve. These traits set him apart fiercely with his competitors and would later define him as a ruler at the North. However, his time away from his family also deepened the gulf between him and Brandon, whose death in the hands of the king Aerys II would ultimately lead to Ned's destiny. An unrelenting rebellion sought out for revenge and retribution for the crimes committed against his family. In one brutal strike, Ned was forced to adopt the mantle of leadership not through ambition or desires, but through duty and loss. As the new head of House Stark, Ned claimed the weight of his family's survival during a tumultuous time of great upheaval.
Brandon had been 20 when he died, strangled by order of the Mad King Aerys Targaryen, only a few short days before he was to wed Catelyn Tully of Riverrun. His father had been forced to watch him die. He was a true heir, the eldest, born to rule. Lyanna had only been 16, a child woman of surpassing loveliness. Ned had loved her with all his heart. Robert had loved her even more. She was to have been his bride.
Through the scars of Robert's rebellion, the legacy of his brother's murders, and the subsequent capture of his sister was thrust upon him. Later, he claimed responsibility and raised an illegitimate son named Jon Snow, shaping a man who would seek out ruling not through the passion of a conqueror, but through the solemnity of a steward. His experience of being a second son, unburdened by the experience of leadership during his youth, gave him a great perspective and a rarity amongst lords, a deep sense of duty required to fulfill the position that he's.
You swore the king an oath, my lord.
He spent half his life fighting Robert's wars. He owes him nothing. Your father and brother rode south once, on a king's demand.
A different time. A different king.
Yet, some who would wield this much power could be rigid and morally coded. Though he is as well, he does not take this in the brutal of means. Ned Stark does what's necessary when given the opportunity. He is morally rigid, but it does not come off as harsh as Stannis. In conclusion, Ned Stark's life is shaped by the perilous pursuit of one's own duty, loyalty, honor, and humanity. This man is not one who would inflict the harshest of leadership, but one who wields leadership so that it would enrich the lives of his people and his family.
Duty is sacrifice. It eclipses all things, even blood. All men of honor must pay its price. The North owes a great duty to the Seven Kingdoms, one older than any oath. Since the days of the first men, we have stood as guardians against the cold and the dark.
Ned's journey is one of brutal means, the duty between life and sacrifice when it comes to the loss of his family members. I often forget that Ned had a family that was taken from him in such a harsh way, because he speaks of and talks about his family in such an enlightening way. Therefore, it is so clear that he was meant to be the Lord of Winterfell, not through the archetypal structure that George R. R. Martin created, but because it was his destiny. Ned being a second son is so profound in this instance because he never thought or sought out power or glory, because he left it to Brandon, his brother, that was oftentimes better than him.
I have not seen him since. She lifted her face to the spray, as if the brisk wind could blow the memories away. He wrote to me at River Run after Brandon was killed, but I burned the letter unread. Why, then I knew that Ned would marry me in his brother's place.
When I often think about Ned Stark's role within the leadership of Winterfell, it leads me to think of the hit TV show Charmed. Ned Stark had to become the older sibling, just like Piper Hollywell had to become the older sibling within their family dynamic. Now, if you've never seen Charmed, I will explain it for you. Charmed is a hit TV show built upon the idea that they are the most powerful witches to defeat the Source. In result, the eldest sister, Prue Halliwell, in the third season dies, and Piper, the second eldest, is subsequently thrust in the role of leadership when it comes to their younger sibling, Phoebe. Now, because of this, she has to navigate the reality that she is not only grieving for her sister, but now she has to navigate the idea that she is the eldest amongst her siblings and the most powerful within her family. I often compare Ned, at least, to Piper because he had to do the same thing. He had to navigate a world enriched within the idea that he was never meant to rule Winterfell, but he had to prove himself 10 times harder.
The king called on me to serve him and the realm, and that's what I'll do until he tells me otherwise.
You can't change him, you can't help him. He'll do what he wants, which is all he's ever done. You'll try your best to pick up the pieces.
That's my job, then so be it.
You're just a soldier, aren't you? You take your orders and you carry on. I suppose it makes sense. Your older brother was trained to lead and you were trained to follow.
I was also trained to kill my enemies, Your Grace.
That he could rule Winterfell because of the ambitions of his brother. Ned's journey foreshadows the undercurrent that the younger brothers have within the rule of leadership. He not only had to take care of his family, but also raise their younger brother Benjen and explain all of the tumultuous events to him. His legacy, marked by both his valor deeds and vulnerability, serves as a testament to the complexity of power and the dynamic that one's duty weighs heavy in the world of Westeros. Daemon Blackfyre, who became a pretender king. Daemon Blackfyre was not born to be a king. As the bastard son of King Aegon IV Targaryen, known as Aegon the Unworthy, and his mistress, Daenerys of House Blackfyre. Daemon's position in the royal lineage was one of conjecture, started by the idea that he could be king. He was the second son of Aegon IV, following his legitimate elder half-brother Daemon II, the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. Yet, unlike many second sons who remain content or resign to their lives in the shadow of their elder siblings, Daemon forged a path of rebellion, ambition, and blood. His story is one of a man who transformed his sight into a rallying cry, trying to undermine his half-brother Daemon's role in king. ultimately leading to a bloody civil war in Targaryen history. Daemon embraced this mantle, declaring himself the rightful king and claiming the name Blackfyre for his new dynasty. In doing so, his transformation of unity and betrayal as a naive second son showcases the perilous and ambition of second sons in Westeros. A bastard in truth. The first of his name, Daemon Blackfyre, born with the surname Daemon of Waters, accompanied a unique perspective and position within the Targaryen dynasty. As the second son of Aegon IV, better known as his demeaned name as Aegon the Unworthy, Daemon's story exemplifies the thought a diplomatic pursuit within second sons in feudal societies, particularly compared to the complications of legitimacy, favoritism, and ambition. Unlike many second sons who live in the shadow of their eldest sibling or quietly accepting their subdued role, Daemon refused this complacency, residing instead of in the background, the foreground. He redefined what it meant to be a second son by using his charisma, battle prowess, and his royal favor to challenge the very order of succession that placed him in a lesser-than position. His rebellion, known as the Blackfyre Rebellion, would set the stage for generations of conflict in Westeros, making his legacy engnarred with the truth of ambition by a bastard. Daemon's position as a second son was complicated by his status as a legitimized bastard. All I could think of was Renly Baratheon telling Sansa, "I have been legitimized by a royal decree." And then Sansa's like, "Oh, by Tommen Baratheon, another bastard?"
Then I'll have a baby brother.
But he'll be the heir.
I'm Lord Bolton's eldest son.
But you're a bastard. A trueborn will always have the stronger claim.
I've been naturalized by a royal decree from
Tommen Baratheon? Another bastard.
His elder half-brother, Daemon II, was recognized as the heir to the throne, born lawfully with the union between Aegon IV and his queen, Aerys. In contrast, Daemon was the direct product of Aegon's affair with Daenerys of House Blackfyre. His legitimized status, Daemon enjoys his father's explicit favors, showing that he prefers Daemon over his older son, Daemon, bestowing him the gift of the great sword, Blackfyre, the ancestral Valyrian sword of House Targaryen. This act was more than a grand gesture of affection. It was a statement of worthy acceptance in a culture that profoundly accepts bloodline rather than name. By passing Blackfyre to Daemon rather than Daemon, Aegon's legitimate son under lawful law, the favoritism contributed to Daemon's natural charismatic nature and battle prowess created a dangerous dynamic with Daemon II. When he was learning the diplomatic of rule, Daemon embodied the characteristics and attributes that of a warrior king, proposing strength and charisma that inspired loyalty and proved to the High Lords of Westeros he could make a great king.
You don't believe him. I understand that. It sounds like nonsense. But if destiny has brought Daenerys Targaryen back to our shores, it has also made Jon Snow king in the north. You were the first to bring Dothraki to Westeros. He is the first to make allies of wildlings and Northmen. He was named Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. He was named king in the north. Not because of his birthright. He has no birthright. He's a damn bastard. All those hard sons of bitches chose him as their leader because they believe in him.
And many of the lords viewed Daemon's Dornish lineage as somewhat speculative, and whether or not the mother was weak or worthy of such an honor. The Blackfyre Rebellion started off not by necessity, but for power and glory. Daemon, being the second son, felt so sidelined enough that he wanted the Iron Throne for himself, believing he was the rightful king based on his merit. His rebellion highlights the individuality that can often arise when second sons are simultaneously emboldened within the complex and intricate faceted reality of personal virtue and undermined by systemic limitations. It also raises and bargains the question about the nature of legitimacy and the role it has within leadership. Was Daemon's challenge to Daeron II an individual consequence of Aegon IV's favoritism, or did it reflect a deep-seated issue within Westerosi society? In conclusion, the first of his name, Daemon Blackfyre's life and rebellion serves as a complex exploration of the second son's archetype in Westeros. His rise to prominence was fueled by his father's favoritism. His exploration of qualities was also directly imposed by him by a divided realm. Yet, his downfall underscores the dangers of ambition unchecked by political pragmatism. As a second son, Daemon reflected his role, transforming it from one of steadfast complacency to one who would not be sidelined into defiance and aspiration. His legacy, though stained by blood, remains a steadfast pillar of power and the perilous archetype of a second son's inhibition to inherit a birthright that is not theirs to take. The enduring legacy of the realm's second son. The legacy of Otto Hightower, King Aerys Targaryen, Ned Stark, and Daemon Blackfyre offer a profound glimmer within the perspective of the second sons in Westeros. These men are born into a world where power is inherited, are determined by bloodlines, were never meant to rise to the height of power which they eventually reach. Whether diving by ambition, duty, or circumstances, their stories identify the aspect of the second son who are often left behind in critical roles, if not vanishing entirely in obscurity. Instead, each man carved out a space for themselves in history of a realm that often forgets about them. Together, these stories often portray them either as villains or one to pick up a mantle placed upon them by the burden of being a second son. Whether you're Otto Hightower or Daemon Blackfyre seeking glory out where you can find it, or Aenys and Eddard Stark who are only doing what the realm is asking of them by becoming the one thing they sought not to be, their lives are heavily shifted by desire, ambition, loyalty, and duty. While their paths diverge from the role they were born into, their sense of honor and nobility is marked as a one so intrinsic into the realm they forged. Let me know in the comments down below if you would like a part 2 to this type of video. That's all I have for you guys today. Watchers beyond the wall, I am out.